and said, it'd be a bit late starting to allow Lenny and everyone else who's gone to visit our mates time to get back. What she actually wrote after that was, I told you to make it 11:30 Nick. So I turned to our esteemed moderator to invite you about what we should do.
We have to start at the appointed time. If other people enjoy talking about cats, well, that's their business. But the rest of us don't need to sit around waiting for other people to enjoy themselves somewhere else. I think that's if you can cause discussion about keeping stuff.
Discussing time, yes.
All right. So I thought we might start and then we can bring other people up to speed when they arrive. And in fact, Claire was just brought up the subject before we turned on the microphones about the nature of stuff. Sort of the theoretical discourse on the nature of stuff. So Claire, do you want to give us your theoretical discourse?
Only a very little bit. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a science fiction fan and I've got lots of stuff. But I think there are actually two sorts of stuff we could be talking about here, because I guess those of us who've got houses and lives full of stuff have some of the same sorts of stuff that not fans might have. The sorts of things where you think, oh, I need to declutter the kitchen a bit. I've got too many clothes. In some cases, non-fans have looks too, I know this. But actually, for some of those things, including clothing, kitchenware, mugs, glassware, and of course, especially books, some of those are fanish and could be considered to form part of a collection or an accumulation, which is actually mostly what I've got. And so they have perhaps more sentimental attachment and more relevance to the community than other people's stuff. Other people will be in other fandoms. They will have sports stuff, music stuff, probably have some of the same problems. But I was guessing probably what we're meant to be talking about here in terms of the stuff we really care about is the things that the community would be really sad to hear that our friends, relatives, or so on had tossed in a skip because we hadn't thought about it. I might be wrong. We might be having one of those decluttering conversations that I seem to have everywhere I go these days. But I wanted to see what the rest of the panel thought, and indeed what you thought about what was what was most relevant, what was useful, because we can talk about all of those things.
So is there a connection between stuff and the Spanish spirit? Because a lot of times the collectors, not necessarily fancies. I have a number of facts that accumulate as collect, but I have lots of other stuff. And is it perhaps something to do with how you grew up? You know, many fans that grew up in wealthy households. You probably didn't have a lot of stuff. I didn't have a lot of stuff growing up in England. It was after the war. We were working class. My father had a white collar job. My mother had two older brothers. And so we had games. We did Harry Castle, Monopoly board, we put in hotels, and paper in wood markers. So we had board games we were inherited, perhaps. Christmas was a big thing to be able to grab a train set. I didn't realize how much how my parents skimped to buy me those things. I was the youngest of the family by 8 years, so my older brothers were already well on the way to adulthood. But I got a train set and a tape recorder. A tape recorder actually steered my career. But as you know, I really grew up with a lot of stuff except those rare special things. So does that lead you then when you settle down and start making a bit of money, and sometimes quite good money, does that lead you to collecting stuff? Is there any connection to get involved with Spanish fandom and start making stuff like fanzines and special publications, the design of fan awards and artwork, all the other things we do? So I'm not sure there is a connection, but there's got to be something there as to why fans have stuff that isn't just fanzines. Many of us have some other collecting interests as well. We can certainly talk about later.
Yes.
If I could do, I have a theory of stuff, and I've talked about it for years. It's short. There are three aspects. There is the comfort of stuff, there is the joy of stuff, and there is the burden of stuff. And my goal, which I'm not very good at, but is what you want to do is maximize the comfort and the joy and minimize the burden. So that's my overarching theory of stuff.
Yeah. The question, are we right?
Yes.
We're right. So, that's
Let's talk.
good theory. Good theory, but how do you?
A little bit closer to your mouth, please. Yes.
I'm kissing it. I feel like a rock star.
Yes.
Hello, Las Vegas.
All right, but no, going to stuff with joy. Can you limit how much of that you've got? Can you have some great joy and this joy?
Probably, but I believe in trusting all joy. So if it's joyful, but there are things that are joyful that turn into burden. You know, fanzines that are in boxes not sorted where I can't go and reach it and find it, and it's faster to do it on fan app. That's a box of crap in my basement that does not bring me joy. So
I am now wondering about, I mean, I'm impressed that you've got a Spanish trilogy, Jerry, obviously. But I'm now also wondering about the fancy, The Joy of Stuff, illustrated by Chris Fox. Because we all collect that, right?
absolutely.
And in the great tradition, I'm foreground to the job, which is the essential stuff. So, for example, doing historical research, actually having artifacts you can handle and original documents you can handle and look at how they're written is really quite important. There's not so much you can write this in archives. If you see it, you can look at stuff, you can't touch it. You go to auction houses because you can touch the stuff, you know, carefully. So I think I would, and in my case, certainly some of what I have is essential stuff.
It's different from comfort stuff.
Yes.
I see the essentials as bringing comfort in that.
Oh, yeah, there's a very close connection between them. But,
Okay, I'll shut up. There's got a lot more.
no, it's okay. No, it's interactive.
Yeah. If anyone else has got any comments they want to make along the way, because I'm sure we've all got stuff, and we've all got like ideas about that stuff. You got the area, yes.
I'd like to point out that stuff is only loosely connected. It's entirely possible to fill your house with stuff and spend almost nothing.
Rocks.
And
For example.
the various times when I've had no money, I still have lots and lots of stuff.
I was just thinking, actually, sometimes not having any money and having lots of stuff makes it harder to get rid of the stuff, because you then need time and perhaps money to actually get someone to come and take it away, as well as having sorted it out. But, I mean, I always think we've got a bit too much stuff, but if we find it, it will organise, and one day it will be. But I think Mark and I have now got to the stage, because as you know, he's just retired, where we do have a bit more time, but we probably also need to think sensibly about, well, how much longer are we going to live in our current house? How could we make it the house we really want to live in at the time that we're going to be there, with all the stuff that we want, nicely arranged in a way that we can find it, and without some of the stuff we don't want to have to be clearing out at maybe the time we have to downsize. I mean, Bill was talking about, you know, does the accumulation of stuff have something to do with how and when and where you grow up? And I was going to say, let me tell you about my mum. But I'll try not to do that too much. I spent a lot of last year helping my parents to move house. And I don't know, I mean, it's not nature or nurture. My parents don't have a lot of stuff. They're really tidy. They had the sort of house that when the estate agent was coming round to take photos, my mother thought, well, I better pack away a few of those ornaments, they make it look a bit tweak. But they didn't have to clean, they didn't have to tidy up. The photographer just came in and took photos of their nicely tidy, clean, well-decorated house. But they still got rid of a lot of stuff when they moved, because they lost a couple of rooms and a garage. And they got rid of more stuff in the first month or two after they moved, because they realised that the new place still felt a bit more cluttered and they weren't using things as much. And I don't get it from there.
In my case, I have my two older brothers who are 8 and old. Don't have a lot of stuff either. I mean, they would cheerfully throw away all the books they have in the house, but they books with them. And they're readers, but they don't have books, they don't have their own books. And this is before Kindle, when that was already printed. So I certainly get it from there. And they were during the war. That changed quite a long time. Most people didn't have stuff, especially regular people. But I have a lot of stuff, but it's mostly these valuable stuff. I don't want to junk. Question then what to do that. In my case, a lot of crypto to auction do quite well. It certainly not thrown away. It probably needs organizing, too late. But I don't have a history of collecting stuff, perhaps because you couldn't afford to collect stuff in my parent generation and one couple before that, so.
Can I, I was just going to say, in terms of stuff, my sister inherited all my parents' stuff, which involved generations of stuff before that. And so she's got this stuff and she doesn't quite know what to do with it because it belongs to the family.
Yeah.
But this is different kind of stuff. We're actually supposed to talk more about stuff that science fiction basically. I'm very talking to guys this here. So, about, yeah.
I was just going to say that we should add a third stage of stuff, which is other stuff, which is kind of transitional and passing through our order.
Yeah.
We're only missing money.
All right, yeah, fine. So, talking about, can I just define what's fanzines? Because I, in 1988, sold my fanzine collection to Murdoch University Library. Well, because I thought I wasn't going to look after the way it would be out. So it sat on shelves at Murdoch University since then. As you go and look at it, so 2 or 3 years ago, and it looks untouched, and well, it is untouched. There's only one academic goes through it. But there's a difference between the fanzine itself and the information that the fanzine contains. And I'm interested in what people think about the value of fanzines as something to keep. The other idea that comes to mind is keeping things so that irreplaceable. For example, I've got some tools that I keep because I know I can't find them again. And I've got, for example, a copy of the Encyclopedia too, which I know I won't see anywhere. I'll probably never refer to it because I'm online. But the question is, the point is, keeping these things because I can't get them anywhere else. Any comments?
Sorry, you can tell I'm struggling to articulate. Clearly my body was not large enough. That does all make sense. I don't think I've got that much irreplaceable stuff. And we have got the stuff we can sort out, of which we might have a bit much, and then we've got things that could be considered to be collections, the things we can deliberately sort out or encourage people to send and give to us, like the books, like Mark's magazines. I put it that way because I have no idea what he's got. Like the fanzines. And actually we've got quite a lot of awards in the house as well, which wasn't intentional, but they are fanish. They are the sorts of things that other fans would recognise and know what they are and might like to have somewhere or know that at least there is an example of one somewhere. But anyone else would kind of go, oh, there is a sort of little rocket shaped trophy thing here, I wonder what that was. Do I want that ornament? No. So those are the sorts of things, and I suppose some of those are irreplaceable, at least in so far as there aren't that many of them. Those are put down that sort.
On your irreplaceable, one of the categories of stuff I struggle with a lot, and this is back to most people having the handmade items by members of my family. My grandfather had a wood lathe and he made bowls and plates and jars and stuff. And I'm the last surviving person of my generation, my siblings and stuff. I was the youngest, I outlived them all. And before I cleaned out my sister's house, I had, I had a stack in my cupboard and I'd used some of these plates that Grandma made, got some initials, and they were handmade items. And then I cleaned out my sister's house, and a dozen of them is fine. 5 dozen of them is more than I can store or have, but Grandpa made them. And I turned to my nieces, I'd heard at my sister's house, I took one jar that I particularly liked, and I did one of the items. But then I put the rest of it, this is stuff for the family stuff, this is stuff for the family to look through. And my attitude on the family stuff, I always consult with my brothers, my Indiana relatives, which are the last I got. But if they don't want it at the time I'm getting rid of it, it's then fair play, and I live 5 miles from an internationally famous antique show that happens 3 times a year. And I have sold stuff from my dad's to vendors at that.
Why do we keep antiques to being, say, at least 20 or 30 copies every month? Why do we keep ours?
Yeah, I don't really collect fancies. I've accumulated fancies.
Well,
I'm not a
you
huge
might not,
one. Yeah, and I keep them because I don't throw them away. I don't have space. Sure, somewhere in there there's 1 or 2. So, but I kind of like artifacts. I like having artifacts. For example, I'm sentimental about. So I'm growing up in England. I started reading science fiction at fairly early ages. Lived literally across the street from the library where I was born around it, but we lived across from town hall. And around the corner was a Carnegie library, funded by Carnegie to a Tom Cruise the robber baron. Yeah, oh yeah, there's a good number. Nice enough. He would put money to construct the garden and fill it, operate. So I'm having 2 older brothers. They talked to me before I went to primary school. So I had a library card I should take it out. I was all like every day. Eventually, found the children's science fiction, found the Hard Boys, so what people and then found the high when I got to my teens. A lot of American paperbacks coming to Britain, stories again, balanced on ships, magazines. And if you went past the adult material, or if you didn't go far back to adult material, shop people looked at it, not just in science fiction. I only read articles. Then really quite a good selection of paperbacks and magazines. In fact, that's how I got into fandom. I digress briefly, show why some things have sentimental value. Because our Milton always has a store sold at the market, which was out in the market, it was fixed, and it had to be on table with a pen, didn't have to bring it. And he had a used books just as you find piled on the table at random. You go to make 8 piles, and next you come back and all at random again. So, I found, for example, 2 episodes of Starship Soldier out of 3, which is what became Starship Troopers after the magazine publication. Never did find the 3rd magazine, not at that time. But I kind of got interested in having books, so I started collecting paperbacks. A little bit more money. There's a public industry called Exchange and Market, actually Craigslist printing fashion, where everybody sold everything, most private sellers, and he got science fiction books. So I goes off to him, what you got? So I've got the Foundation trilogy, and I've got I, Robot, and I've got some books by John W. Campbell, and that kind of thing. And I don't remember what I paid for it. I know I have the entire Lensman series and the Foundation and I Robot, not first editions. And I was a teenager, and I could not have paid more than a few shillings each for them at the time. And I've kept those with me ever since. And I do plan to sell that probably heritage. As long as I don't need to have them. But it goes back 60 years almost, probably 60 years. So, how do you decide whether to keep things like that? You don't have to get all of those very easily, books or as e-books. And I pull them out occasionally, while I like to photograph of all the covers, have more packed neatly, very accessible, no time. So, but those I really do plan to about things like that I've enjoyed for so many years. I enjoy just knowing I have them. That's part of it. You don't have to be looking at it all the time. But, and you know, a lot of collectors are like that. Why did you pay $50 million for that painting? Because I now have it. You don't. I've never had that. The things I have because I enjoy having. And the other things I collected kind of was technically related. You know, I often talk about conventions, consuites, wander off looking plays. Not always, but so for example, you know, I did a talk at the Texas Court Association, those pictures against the monument. And I said, okay, well, let me not just stand at the face of the ground, let me put something together. So, you know, for Bridge Code's fancy, I read about Edison's electric pen. It was the origin of stencil duplicate, 1876. And so, you know, I did the article. So I thought, okay, well, log onto my server report. I'll grab the text of the article, I'll massage it a bit, and I've got, you know, lots of photographs. So I'll put a PowerPoint together. So while sitting around with the author, I put a PowerPoint together on the electric pen, and I started to talk for 45 minutes on it. And subsequently, I now have a complete electric pen set. Those don't go in. Yeah, okay. So, you know, obviously bibliography is the heart of Spanish handbook. And this is the origin of it. So how did you not pursue something like that? Because it's a rather expensive thing to do, but it's something that has more value than what I paid for it still. So I bought an electric pen on eBay for a very, very low price. I'd seen one of them sold for $42,000 at an auction. They made the technology objects for a museum there. And so I was watching on eBay make the telegraph equipment. And the day before one of our summer parties, about 15 years ago now. Yeah. And I'm looking on Friday, I save search as telegram. And this one says, and you know, in those days, eBay had tiny pictures, 225 to 40 camera for lucky. So here's a picture in telegraph keys and telegraph stamps, corners, like a pen. In fact, it is an electric. So I put in a snipe bid on the last minute before the sniping service. And I got it for $400. Yeah. So now I have an electric pen. So now, as I do, that starts a whole train of research. I want to know more about this. Why did one sell for $42,000? Where did this one come from? It had a serial number on it. So, okay, well, how many did they make? Now, fortunately, when Edison died, all his papers went to a trust, and Rutgers University managed it. It's the X Papers Project. They are cataloging their fanatics also because they are writing Edison's life from his papers. Okay, so you know the value of having original documents comes in there. And this is a 30-year-old project already. The first we published a series of books over 1,000 pages each, close to that textbook style. And it's an annotated selection of the most interesting papers chronologically. So, you know, the first 10 years is like the first, and it's the next 7 years, the next 5 years. And now it's the most productive period, where it's a year and a half, it's 1,000. And they microfilmed it long ago, and then microfilmed to digitize it, go online and search. So I started searching. And being a computer guy now, I set the web page for it, electric pen. I started putting my research on it. And again, that's the case where having an artifact that I can actually disassemble, which you'd never do it in a museum. Carefully, being an engineer, you know, kind of know how to take things, but generally how to put it back together again. Often, yeah. So, so I set the page, and then I started a registry. So now I get people emailing for a tattoo parlors because its pen was pirated by a tattoo artist who made the first tattoo gun. Okay. So people that collect tattoo history, they have their fandom also. They got what we call the flash, you know, the drawings of the tattoo art, and the early ones were as our pens. Anyway, so a long story short, I cut my site up. I got an email from the guy who said we do clear out in Rockland County, and we think we've come across an electric pen set. Because the set was the pen itself, a wet cell double battery with what we could lift the electrodes out, and that's the alarm switch, and then a flexible cable over to the pen. So you drop the electrodes in the battery, start with them, you spin a little motor on the pen, and you write with it, and you perforate a plain paper stencil. But you then need a printing frame, which is like a flatbed mini, where you've got a piece that folds up with your stencil in. You put your worksheet on the bed, fold it down. That's a cast iron frame with a drawer where you mix your ink and an ink roller, not on its handle, so where you stand it up, and a brush to distribute the ink, all built into this. And yes.
I'm going to cut you off and say, you've just done a really, really lovely example of kind of what we, how we come about doing stuff, a very fanish and stuff. I think you got something. I would like to get to okay, where does stuff go now? It's like if we're looking to get rid of fanzines, Eaton's got a lot of stuff, but
Now, I was just going to ask a question. If maybe not fashions, and you did, who knows what you about this thing? Have you got pages or if you go somewhere? Or will someone just walk into the house and say, what's the rubbish?
No, that will get sold. Our nephew, in fact, knows about lots of this stuff. I do have to catalog some of these better.
what happens to efanzines.com?
Okay, but the same nephew, fortunately, is a .com millionaire, having started a business with his college fellow, then car rentals, that they sold to Expedia. Okay.
None of my business, but don't take flights with your nephew.
No, never did. So he has like main registrations and I have a cloud service with no hardware. You basically take over. There would be no new updates, of course, but we maintain its archive indefinitely, along with all my other websites that are important. I have some domain names that I don't care about, I can let them expire slowly.
So you are better organized than most of us.
Well, because it's electronic, because the Chad Boston picture collection where you have files, hard drive, no backs, crash. Fans gave me thousands of dollars to recover about 2/3 of it. If that should never happen, I would never say will, it should never happen. Because everything is on my server code, exactly the same as on all of my websites. They're out on a cloud server, which is somewhere in New York, I think. For which I pay $16 a month for all of my websites. It's not a hosting service. You can bare metal with an operating system on it. They just operate it for you. They do a backup once a week. I do a backup every night to Mary's machine downstairs, my upstairs. Mary's machine backs up to 2 external drives all day periodically. So in terms of digital security, fairly well organized.
I had wanted to backtrack a little bit to something Bill said some time ago to talk about, I suppose, before we think someone else is going to sort this out for us and who is that and how what we're in this way, I wanted to talk a bit about pruning or weeding our own collections so that we can know what's there and have done some of that work for the people we're doing. But before even that, as I'm getting into gardening metaphors, sometime before that, Karen had a comment or a question. I don't know if we've gone way past it.
One thing very early on is I recently read an article that said organization is not a storage region.
Yeah.
What you're doing is trying to make it easy for yourself to find it in the future.
Right.
And the whole attitude shifting. And then regards to something Bill had said, that it was that maybe he said, the things that are sentimental, things that you think, things that are irreplaceable, I think should still be subject to Jerry's category. That it may be irreplaceable, but if it's not bringing you joy, if it's just a burden, still get rid of it. Like, harder to do, but you can.
And that does come back to one of the things I was going to say, because when Mark and I moved into our current house very nearly 20 years ago, we both had quite a lot of books. And we both had quite a lot of the same books. So we went through the process there of merging our book collections and getting rid of duplicates. I mean, that was the really serious thing. Never mind spending all the money on the house. We merged our book collections. Yeah. And as a result of that, we did have various duplicates. to give away, and quite a lot of those were SF, because that was the main thing. There was some history, there was something. So at the time, we had quite a lot of younger fan friends who had not yet accumulated all of their stuff and were delighted to come round and pick up all of the boxes and take away the duplicates. We knew those were going to good homes. Since then, we had a really pleasant period where we had some spaces on the shelves in our new house, and that lasted for several years. And we both acquired e-readers since then, and are buying many more of our newer books, or getting free ones, for e-readers rather than paper books. And sometimes where good quality copies of things we already have on paper are around. Mostly what we've got and what we want are reading copies, so we have been replacing paper with digital. But when I say replacing, what we've actually been doing so far is taking all the duplicates and putting them carefully in boxes in the garage. Because I'd really like to find good homes for those too. And in a few cases, my parents have had a chance to go down and take them away, and I will say, my parents enjoy books, but don't feel the need to keep them after they've read them. This is how their house is the way it is. But we've still got lots of them, and I've been thinking, are there local places where people will be spending time in waiting rooms or doing other things where they appreciate having some books, again, even if they sort of keep them until they're tatty and then throw them out. There are places we could probably sell them to, because if we just take them to a charity shop, bookshop, Goodwill, then in many cases they don't keep them for long. In some cases they just toss them. And with all of our stuff, I would rather it got reused rather than being thrown out. And I'd particularly rather it could be reused by someone who will really get some joy from it themselves before they too pass it along. But the challenge we had even when we started merging our books is that some of the things we had in common were signed and inscribed things from authors and people we've kicked the site. Not that many. But 20 years later, we've not yet solved the problem. We have a complete set of a trilogy for a stage on Gordie Greenwood, which are signed and inscribed. And the other things, I don't think we had too much of a reading sentiment. We kept the better copies, or the most useful copies of things we had two of. Sometimes one of us would say, but I got that as a Clark Award submission. I know it's not quite the same problems for things we're keeping that. But the other thing, we've got to do it again. We are not now going to read the unread books in the house. We have reached that. I mean, my Spanish standards have become about 7,000 pages, and we don't both want to read all of them, but we're going to have to go through the bookshelves, and we're going to have to work out what to keep, and we're going to have to solve that problem then of what we do with the spares. How do we find a way that they're not just considered to be trash right now? And in a few cases where they really are, because we can't remember why we bought them, and we don't think anyone else will want them either, they are. And that's what we're going to have to do, so that we can see what we've got and enjoy those and take a slightly different approach over the next 10 to 15 years.
And assuming it will last 15 to 20 years, when you're paying pressures on the way back then, what's going to, do you have plans for this?
Well, we're not idiots. We've made wills. We've had them for years.
Have you actually made wills supposed to do?
Yes. Because as I said, there are some things that actually it does not matter when we're dead what happens to them. It would be great if the easiest way for the people that have to sort out that stuff is to find the solution for the books that we also have to find. The stuff we care about more are fanzines that might not yet exist in a permanent form somewhere else. Our own fanzines, which are not online, because I'm funny that way, and our own other writing, and things like the Irreplaceable, and we do have some younger fan friends still. So as part of the provision for this, one of our mid-30s fan friends is tasked with being in charge of all of our family stuff, including effectively being our literary executor, and thus making sure that things aren't lost. And that's written into our will. I also have another plan I'm hoping to be able to execute, so it doesn't just fall on him, of what to do with our actual fanzines, which involves my old university. We can come back to that, etc.
How are you gonna feel about phenomenal examples of, are you gonna be happy for those to be digitized once you're not fixed them?
Yes, but one of the things that we've discussed with our executor in that respect is that it's not just us, because other people wrote for the fanzine, knowing at the time that it was paper only. And those people also need to be content for their writing to be more generally available. And there is a task of work in that. Again, if we have time, but am I really going to say if we're spared? Yes, I am. If we have time, then we can also contact our contributors and do some of the same work on that ahead of time to be certain, because again, it's not fair if we could do it to load all of that onto someone else. But it is one of the things I feel quite strongly about. I don't want to be misinterpreted by people who randomly find what I've written on the internet. I don't want to do that to other people who've written for us as well. We're expecting it to be more private.
Willie, welcome.
Yeah, so I'm a little late trying to catch up to speed, so when Claire talking about worrying about people trying to read and interpret and analyze what she wrote.
I just have a sit and just ask you about
Oh, all right, well, I can tell you about me.
Okay,
About 10 years ago, I married.
closer,
I'm not loud enough.
thank you.
Yeah, that Robert Lickman would come to my house and get all my fancies, but, unfortunately, that, is no longer happening. Well, what we should say about, Robert Lickman's collection, inherited Terry Carr's collection, and he went through it, and he picked out all of the good stuff that he didn't already have. And then there was still plenty left over, and the remainder of it went to the Eden collection at the University of Riverside. And just recently, this year, we learned that some portion of the existing Robert Lickman collection was sold to a private merchant. Some of you may have read the story on 770 about the Leo and Diane Dillon artwork being sold. Yeah, and then his first name is Mark. I don't remember his last name.
Contest the vote, catalog.
Yeah, all right, we have the catalog. I looked through that catalog, and I did not see references to all like the Spanish stuff, like the Gappa mailings. And I wrote to Ben Lickman, who was Robert's oldest son, and managing things. And I asked him, I said, well, we know that a certain amount of Robert's collection was sold to this merchant. But can you tell me, was any of the remainder donated to any of the archives at Riverside? And I wrote Ben 2 times, and he replied once inviting me to the display of the Leo and Diane Dillon artwork in San Francisco. But he said nothing about the remainder of the collection. It was actually managed by Rebecca Perland, who some of you may remember as a very talented satirist. Well, that's kind of beside the point. But anyway, Rebecca made the deal to sell what was left of Robert's collection. Joe was telling me last night that originally Joe wanted to buy it, and then Rebecca told him that she already sold it. And what I'm afraid the truth is that since Ben didn't reply to my question, that probably all of it got sold. Well, that's what happened as far as Roberts.
The question I ask is, the question I ask is, was anything sold that has actually been lost to Phantom, or are there other copies in other places? So that, or
Copies of what?
wasn't,
Robert's fancies?
yes,
Well, yeah, there are a number of them are online.
I wanted to ask Mike to say more about the catalogue.
And Ben has a copy of that on his hard, including all the letters to travel. So are you finding the atlas and stuff?
There's an extensive list of his fanzines. It's about half this catalog is Robert Lichtman's catalog of fanzines, but I'm not sure what happened to the ones that didn't get sold. Because I didn't get word on that from Mark. I suppose, no. The rest of the material is Terry Carr, Carol Carr, and Robert Lichtman's personal correspondences with writers and such.
Well, that's art distressing.
Yeah, there's a lot of art. Hugo's.
I've looked at that.
You've seen this one?
Oh, I've seen it.
Have you seen this one?
I have.
Okay.
We have those.
But that's,
It's online.
What I wanted to say was, it's impossible to tell what's included and what's not included for quarterly.
Well, that was what I thought. And what I was afraid of saying is that since Ben didn't tell me and answer my question, that Rebecca sold it all to the sky. But I don't know that.
What we don't know is what actually wound up in this Riverside.
Well, we know that Riverside got all of Terry's collection before, after Robert leaked it out. And I asked Ben directly whether anything was left that got sent to Riverside, and he hasn't answered that question.
Just as a quick example, I of course Hugo scanned this, and Baggy Khan ate the fanzine program book I did for Baggy Khan is in here, as well as more known fanzines.
yes, up there.
There's all kinds of stuff in here. If anybody wants to come.
Up the back, yeah.
No, I would say one of the,
I mean, my understanding is one of the irreplaceable things from Robert's collection, this is Seth Barber, which is probably only replicated elsewhere by Silver's Seth.
Well, yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It was official letter, years and years. Must have had some.
And yeah, and he really built that up. I mean, so those are the only two extant sets with a few missing pieces that no one else has had. And it hasn't been constructed.
Well, Ben may yet reply to my email. And there are drafts of all of that on the hard disk that Ben has. That's right.
The other thing that Robert inherited was Boyd Raven's collection of fancy.
Oh, yeah.
Mark is selling some of Boyd Raven's stuff to stuff.
Well, does it list issues of Abba? Does it list Boyd's fancies?
Yes.
Well, he's selling it as a Raven.
Yeah, this time may not even know what those.
He's got a list of about, let's say, 50 or 60 scenes that Boyd covered.
The question as a historian,
Yeah, this guy's interested in selling.
yeah, well, what I'm interested in as a historian is whether this material is going to remain in existence.
Selling the Boyd Raven archive, which says.
Yeah, but when, is it going to go somewhere where it's going to be lost forever? Or is it going to go somewhere where people like me will be able to get there in the future sometime? Doesn't particularly cost me as a historian. Where it goes, as long as it's alive.
Well, why don't we think you just sell it?
Well, I'm not sure if it costs.
Yeah.
I think it's probably cost.
Well, that's the question. Well, the question is, are they the only copies of that? Are they the only copies of this that go? Or are they going to be Riverside or other?
No, I have like 60 Fathom mailings that I bought from Bruce in my closet. I mean, there are other copies.
Well, really, can we go to the other question we were talking about? Is what are your reasons?
Well, I was gonna get to that. Actually, yeah, I have not yet, I asked Joe actually, last night. Too many fancies in my house, so I don't know. I think you might wanna come back to me later when you talk about the existing archives. I have a whole list of all the university libraries.
I wanted to give a massive shout out to Vanek Gabor at this point and to invite some of the people there. What I can do. What privacy extension is not going to last one, I'm dead and I won't care. But everyone else who is concerned about this stuff existing at the moment should be talking to these people. You're talking to these people.
All right, first, about what, Rebecca said she was selling everything. She said it was all going to, because we had made arrangements and she decided she had it. The other thing, was that there are copies and, of that for all. I have maybe 250 of them, but, Bob Silverberg has almost a complete set. He's missing about 120 scenes total out of about 20,000. And he has said that that will go to FANIC afterwards, but we'll wait and see him. Let's make sure FANIC. The thing is that our own collection has to go someplace as well, because my son is not a fan. And we will be looking at that. It was one of the reasons I was sitting here. But so far, you guys haven't talked about what to do with these publications, whether it's a university. But the universities have been getting a little bit weary, maybe, of collecting paper, large amounts of paper, especially paper that is deteriorating. It's one of the reasons that we've been doing massive amounts of scanning, even of things that you might not really want to get to all the time. But it's worthwhile to get at least an overview. We have minor fraction of the number of fanzines that have been published, digitized and everything. And I don't know how this fits into all the things you're doing. We also collect too much other stuff, Edie and I, but if you can get more to the, I'd appreciate it if you get more to the address what you can actually do with some of this stuff. It would be,
Joe, what happens to the FANAC website right now? They're playing the
okay.
it's all you are taking home.
The FANAC website is archived by the Library of Congress. Afterwards, we do not have a specific thing, as Bill has mentioned, for passing that website on to date. We have talked about two things. One,
Hey, Bill, can we borrow your nephew? Maybe we should talk.
okay, we've talked about two things. One of which is archiving the site and passing it along to at least a number of libraries and Spanish organizations intact, because our website is on the web. It is not something that requires a server to move it around or right. And another of which is trying to find people who want to do it. I'm not the technical person, that's Mark and Edie, and they have been working on things on that. And if you want questions on that, we need to let them do.
Yeah, a comment on donations, and the topic came up is, I deal with quite a few archives and museums and curators and archivists because of my research interests in centuries, many kinds. And most of them will not accept unsolicited donations unless an endowment goes with them for the maintenance of that collection. And again, they won't accept anything that doesn't fit with their collecting theme and intent. And so they may accept an unrestricted donation, which says we can do anything we like. We can dispose of it, we can sell it, because they can't dispose of the permanent collection, but they can take donations, not accession. They can decide instead it doesn't fit their collection purposes, and they will put it to auction or try and find maybe a library will take it. But it's really quite difficult to donate things at random, especially these days.
If I can just add on our personal opinion, I think I can only describe this as a potential work in progress at the moment. It doesn't solve the problem if our plane goes down at some point on the way home, although that is left to our friendly younger man. But again, part of the provision we've made for this in our will is to say that there is a bequest that goes with the fanzines and any of our other Flemish artifacts if he can find the right place for them. I want to do the work myself because my old university has quite a big social archive, including lots of the sort of citizen diaries and so on from the Second World War onwards. And I want to talk to them about the ways in which the British fanzines in particular that we've got fits with that as part of social history, as part of a particular community, and see if they can take it on that basis. But it's very much with the intention that, yes, we will be leaving them or giving them, if we get to do it, money to deal with that. And we would not be expecting them to keep things that didn't fit, but I want to be having a conversation about what they want and why. And if they wanted to talk, if they don't, we have to find a plan B, which is why I say it's potential work in progress. Haven't done this yet. Been talking about it for a couple of years. I need to get on with it. So it's not a perfect solution, but we've got ideas.
Benjamin?
Yes.
A quick thing, Bob Silverberg, he's in his late eighties, he's trying to find an institution that will take his research. He's still wanting to, but he doesn't have it. And I want to say that at the beginning of last year, Karen and I spent a lot of time in Minneapolis because our good friend, Denny Lee, was a retired librarian who whose house had about 30,000 books of science. And an extensive collection of books. So, sorry, if I can say. So this turned out to be difficult to pass. Jenny had been told by a staff he had about 6 books to it, so we spent some time trying to find places. We spent some time trying to find places for it. We finally placed his books. The University of Iowa, with Peter Blustery area, their collection of books, but that required money because they have no money at the university. In fact, we tried other places and they have no money either. And then if they already have a copy, they won't accept another because it's just a burden. So if you think you're going to give your collection to a university, you better start now. It's good to have a friend at the university that wants to.
Yeah, on books especially, most books, the hard fact is they have zero resale value. The majority of books, coffee table books, become given.
The last few weeks that we were working, we basically called in all the booksellers we could find to come and get anything they wanted out of his house. Greg Kenner, who runs Street Paper in Minneapolis, said that he called about 700 cartons, vacant boxes out of Denny's house, and in the past year he's been giving books away. So it's like that.
There's going to be a
You
consensus.
mentioned a pod, you mentioned one of those pods that parks in his driveway, packed full, all of this stuff. It's the only way you can deal with all of it.
Yeah, the rare book market is solid. Okay? If you have a specialized collection, in fact, there are dealers who specially putting together collections of random books and then selling it as a unit to a university or research center. And obviously things like the Foundation show steady market for first edition. the majority of books go into, especially now, no resale value, as further pointed out in Dennis' case.
Yes.
I was going to say, I don't want this to sound insulting. It's sort of staring at the moment, because it's not just science fiction archives. I was an archaeologist in London. I worked on the Olympic site in Eastern Europe. There is something called LARC, the London Archaeological Archive and Resource Centre. It was built by the Museum of London. It's huge. It's like the thing from Indiana Jones. It just goes back and back and back. They filmed it in less than a year. That's with Roman archaeology, Iron Age archaeology, even further back, medieval. They keep one example of every brick from medieval. Now, they keep one roof tile. There are certain things they have to keep more on because for academic purposes, because they don't know why the conventions are set up. Animal bone is never disposed of. So you're talking about books and things like that. This is a problem with every obsession. They're running out of space and buildings cost money.
How much time do we have right now?
It depends on this. It depends on. Yeah.
I do have a closing thing before we end on the free related to all this. Thank you, Jerry. Was wondering if you could include in the discussion, you're talking about books, you're talking about fancy correspondence.
Correspondence.
One that, can I just,
Has anybody discussed all the existing universities? Or maybe
can I just talk, this is my own experience, with correspondence. Yeah, hold this.
Yes.
See, no, I'm not starting. My own experience with correspondence is that no one ever kept anything in order, because you had large numbers of boxes. I've come across correspondence, unorganized, organized. What am I going to do with it? The answer is, I'm scanning and throwing it out. I want to keep the information in the correspondence. Sometimes the pieces of paper are from someone who is important to Belmont, but what's more important is the information on the piece of paper. So I'm scanning it as hard as it is, it goes in. And I think that what we're actually ending up talking about is digital storage, because it's much easier to maintain. It doesn't degrade well. Digital stuff doesn't degrade.
It can be made not to.
Exactly. So, so correspondence, I think, is more personal than that. So I've got boxes of my correspondence when I can spell it, and I'll scan mine and throw it out. But so I'm not interested in reading. I'd rather start with it. But someone, look, we're saving stuff because we think someone somewhere down the track will want to read it.
Yeah, look at my research into technology was valuable in this correspondence. You read letters of William Thompson, Lord Kelvin, about laying the Atlantic cable, for example. And you're going to find the raw details in the book, many books, but his actual correspondence on the subject, and so much for a deeper insight into what was going on at the period. So correspondence is one of the most valuable things for historical research, I would say.
Yes.
There are two things of correspondence. The folks online can't hear, we don't use the microphone, it means it's like.
There's two kinds of correspondence I'm concerned with. Correspondence with other fans that could be extremely valuable for the details and the information there. But in addition, correspondence with writers, with people of reputation, like Ursula. And would you dispose of those two different categories differently? And is there, and how?
No, it's an interesting question. Once again, my own business. Bruce Gillespie has got a 4-drawer filing cabinet of all the letters that Bruce Gillespie has a 4-drawer filing cabinet of all the correspondence that has been written to science poetry. The question is, what's going to do with it? Well, they keep going through it, pulling out the letters that are being signed by 4 people. Well, I don't mind them doing that, so long as they scan the lot first. And then most of it can be thrown out, and the rest of it be sold as artifacts signed by delegated.
Terry had Roger Connor's correspondence, including her correspondence with Chippewa. And so things like that, but we're doing it here, I mean, I think it's always going to be piecemeal. You know, we're gonna hear about things, people are interested, are going to rush to Minnesota and deal with Denny's house, and Karen and Mike did a bang up job of dealing with that. It's amazing.
We start to run a little bit over time. Have you got any comments you would like there to finish this off?
Hello, did that work? I think we've just found out what Mark's going to do with his retirement.
I don't know whether people are interested in this. The great thing about Fan Act is you can actually find the stuff and read it yourself. And I was talking to Lee about the National Library of Australia, Susan Smith Clark fanzine collection. And, you know, I said, well, what if you have a PhD? Is there any way that you can read it? And he said, I have a PhD and I can't read it. So what I'm trying to do with varying degrees of success, there's Bowling Green State University Brown Popular Culture Library, Duke University Edwin and Terry Burry Fancy Collection, Temple University, the Pascal Collection, Riverside, we all know, the University of Connecticut has a fancy collection, and this looks like the best chance, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So, you know, I'm ready, you know, maybe Lane Stiles has some connection with that, and that might be accessible. There's also an interesting one that I got from Richard Lynch, which is the University of Georgia has the entire Ned Brooks fancy collection. And Joe was telling me yesterday that that's only a small portion of what they have at that university, and they pay. So if someone is wondering what to do with their fancy collection, if they're still accepting, you know, they might actually pay to take over the fancies. You know.
That's a big
Well,
gift.
Yeah, one comment on that is, the question you should ask them is, what are you going to do with it? And how will it be made accessible? Because even if a university or archive has material, if you can't find it, it's worthless. So again, in my own research, I say, right, if your catalog is on the line, at least I know you have something that can cover me, because if you don't even have that minimum information on the line, you're not doing anybody any good. Yeah, so when they accession something, what they do, most stuff is donated, it's put in the accession system, goes into storage, and it's never seen again. You know, it's a very rare library books that was donated to the New York Public Library in the 1950s, which they haven't even catalogued yet. It's an important collection of 19th century technology books.
And many of them are not accepting. We have these lists, many of them will not accept stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Unless as we say, it corresponds with their theme.
There's two problems. The first is,
Mark.
the first problem is money. The university libraries don't have it. The second problem is people. Some person at the university makes this their particular area of interest. They move on, they retire, they transfer to the university. Their replacement is interested in something else.
That's what they call a champion.
Yeah.
He's a champion.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Joe was telling me yesterday that the guy that's running the University of Iowa, Joe may want to speak, Joe said he's getting kind of like he may not want to keep doing what he's doing.
No, so you're talking about people must be at least like this guy, so he's retiring in 2 years. Yeah. And this, when he's going to this, has limited funds.
Really good with AC and C.
About being cataloged, just keep in mind that a collection can have finding aids created, so when you get a collection, it might go right into storage, but very often someone, maybe a student, someone like me, creates a finding aid, so at least you got a sense of what's in there, whether it's ready to go. So it may not be cataloged, they might catalog without finding aids, I suppose, but keep in mind that if you think it's there, check with them and see what they have to offer you. Maybe not immediately when they get the collection, but they do try to make that, that's part of that, otherwise, why have it there? It won't be detailed, but it will give you a hint of what's there.
I mean, anything gives the researcher a clue. I mean, the minimal information, we have a collection of so-and-so, and when you search it out, if you find on the website, we have the catalog, you have it, you know. I mean, the Smithsonian had a collection donated in the 1890s, they put the finding aid in 2016. For example, yeah.
And the other thing
So I can,
The other thing I wanted to mention was you may go to Iowa and he may retire, he's lovely, he may retire. But what they might end up doing is selling it to another library and swapping it for archives that they do turn out to one. That collection will still go somewhere. Texas A&M had a fabulous fanzine collection, especially Texas fanzines. And the new guy didn't, and Hal went around to everyone, got everyone's fanzines, and then the new guy didn't care. Except about media fanzines. So all the others you traded to Orange County. So they're still there. I was thinking with cataloging. So yeah, it moves around, but it might still exist.
Excellent. So one of the things that is a good note for people from future programs and other is several years ago at the Susan Grant Special Collections Library at the University of Maryland, Baltimore, came and talked about it. And I think it's really good for us to always keep this in mind. These libraries, these collections, centered around the country, we should reach out and talk to them, participate in the call group or other connections. I mean, this those relationships ensures that we know what's happening in those collections, as well as they know who else out in the community has things that
can I point out one other thing that occurs to me in the story? Is if we don't encourage this. So if we don't encourage libraries to take this stuff on using it, they will ask why are they keeping it. So one of my jobs as a historian, that's one of the reasons I'm going to Riverside is to say, look, I'm interested, keep the stuff. Because if when I get back to Australia, I'm going to go, Murdoch University has got a special collection, which has got 70 boxes of John Foyce's unsorted papers. I have, well, poor old Yvonne had nothing. She had to move what she was going to have with his papers. So she just stuck them in archive boxes and Murdoch took them. So when you go there, get box 16 or box 57, and you have no idea what you're going to get, but at least it's there. And so sometimes some of them are going to take this one. Beautiful.
Kind of sideways thing. I don't think we're done with this conversation, and there are a lot of people that would like to do it. So, is there interest in making this a family history Zoom in the fall so that we can get some of these librarians on to talk about their archives? Does everybody here know about the family history series, right? We do half a dozen a year. We've been doing it for 5 years. It's not a published link. It's not a published link because we don't want to have strange people showing up, but it's free to everybody that gives a shit, right? So if you're not on the list, let me know. I'll schedule it for early in the year. Suggestions for who this list to be on it. We know Maryland, we know Pete Balistrieri, and who do you think the others should be? And we'll do that. And if you haven't been on the Zoom series, you should try it. They're on YouTube.
All right, well, I guess one other footnote for anyone that's interested in APIC, you got the entire 60 years of APIC was scanned by, Eaton. And East Row now has custody of that, and all you need to do, if you wanted to read Apple, you have to, show East that you're a genuine member of Hospice and a contributor. And if you have not been a contributor to Abigail, you can do what the Class and I did in 1964, when Abigail first started. We were contacted by a man named Tom Gilbert, who decided that he was going to surprise Diane Fells, and he invited us Class. We sent in our membership dues. We became card-carrying members of Hospice and sent our fanzines, and we became Abigail contributors. So I have access to that now. And if you wanted to contact Keith Rowe, I'm wondering whether you could send in your membership. Beth would not release you. And a sense of some, it wouldn't be sensitive thing. But, send him a fanzine for an Abigail. You too would be a contributor.
Clara certainly made some very good points on kind of planning you can do. But the other side of that is that no matter how good your planning is, it may or may not work. It probably won't work the way you thought it would. And the best outcome may be something like what happens with Robert Lichten's collection. A dealer that has some interest in it takes everything, triages it, and it goes somewhere. You may not know where, but somebody else now has that responsibility. And eventually, the stuff may end up somewhere useful. And that's what the best hope for most of them.
Okay. I have a practical thing I invented last summer for all of you who have stuff you need to sort that you never get around to sorting. And it's called Zoom Sort. You set up with another friend who also needs to sort through their shit. And you get on, you set a time, you get on Zoom together, you do anywhere between 1 and 2 hours where you're each in your place doing your sorting, socializing, talking, holding up, what the hell, Allison's guy is great, it's telling me what, no, get rid of it. And I now do this with Allison, I do it with a friend in Minneapolis. I tried doing it with Moshe, but he wasn't able to keep a schedule yet, so we'll see if we can get to that. But I'm doing it with several different people a week, and I have gone through hundreds of gallons of shredded paper. I've got fanzines that I need to find out who can, is okay with me on FANAC. I've got convention pucks from Mark. I'm dealing with stuff on a regular basis. And my God, Zoom sorts work brilliantly for me and several of my friends. And if you're interested in trying one with me, let me know. We'll try one. But I encourage other people to adopt Zoom sorts because they are working.
Okay, have you done anything about this? All right, you're right. Can I just say that we've ended up talking about where stuff goes, but I just want to bring us back to the beginning of this discussion, was our own personal collections of stuff. Now, you've heard a lot of the problems about dealing with stuff, in particular fanzines, things like that, correspondence. But we all have to deal with our own collections of stuff. We have to figure out what we're going to do with our stuff, where it's going to go. And because our stuff is ours, it's a personal description, a personal explanation of who we are. So each collection is personal. But in the end, if it is going to be digitalized or go to libraries, it becomes part of the collective. I can't say much more than that. So thank you very much for your attendance.
Back at 2:30.
I'm putting this. Get you said. There's it sucks.